It's so nice to be spending time with a bunch of people where everything has gone your way. Everything has been flawless and smooth and nothing but cherries and whipped cream and everything's nice. But we know that's not true, right? Because I know so many of you, and I know that you all had your share of heartaches and struggles and difficulties. The number one selling book of all time is the Bible. No book has been sold more than the Bible. I have in my hands the number 2 best-selling book of all time. It's called The Road Less Traveled by Dr. M. Scott Peck. It was on the New York Times best-selling list for over 10 years. He himself was shocked at how popular the book became and how people wanted to read it. And I want to read to you, this is the famous line of this book. It's the first line of the book. And it says this: life is difficult. I see you later. So life is difficult, but he says, once you accept and embrace that life is difficult, it becomes less difficult. So in other words, it's a good question to ask ourselves when we think about life. What is my concept? What is my vision of life? If I say that, well, life is difficult, when I experience difficulties and setbacks and heartaches and difficulties, health concerns, we go, well, yeah. I mean, life is difficult. Where if we don't have that viewpoint, when we experience a difficulty, what do so many of us do, right? And I certainly fall prey to this, right? It's not fair. How come me? That's not right. How come me and not them? What did I do wrong? Why is life out to get me? I'm a good person. So it's an interesting thing. That first thing is, do I accept that life is difficult? Life has problems and struggles. And it's very interesting when you think about like the Vanderbilt children, right? They grew up where everything was done for them. They grew up in enormous wealth. Have you ever been to Rhode Island? I think it was their summer cottage. It was like 30,000 square feet. And I remember going on a tour, and the lady was telling the story. They said that when the nanny went down, she was hurt or sick or whatever, the Vanderbilt children, who maybe were 17, 18, 19 years old, oh my goodness, who will tie our shoes? Who will draw our bath? They grew up helpless because everything was done for them. And interestingly enough, a lot of people who are born into tremendous wealth have a lot of mental and emotional problems because everything is handed to them. They don't struggle. They don't have all these difficulties that so many of us have. I think I've shared with you the story. I don't know why the heck we did this, but my mother and my aunt, they decided to get ducks, right? For Easter, like the first day of Lent or something like that. We got these little ducks. And my uncle, they lived right up the street from us, and my uncle was like, there's no way these ducks are living in my house. They are going in the garage, and they're gonna have like this little pen, this hard pen, and this is where they're gonna live. And they're gonna sleep on a concrete floor, and that's where they were. Our ducks lived in the basement next to the little, the heater, the little baseboard heating. We had a nice carpet for them. I think we set up the internet. No, there was no internet then. So, 6-7 weeks later, we go to bring the ducks to Cameron Field in South Orange. Their ducks were like this, ready to go. Our ducks were like that. They were going to get their lunch eaten when they hit that pond in Cameron Field. They weren't ready because everything was cozy, cozy, cozy. So it's interesting that the way life is set up, it almost seems as if life being difficult and having heartaches and difficulties and problems is almost necessary. It's inherent in life because the living God knows that as human beings, we are not going to grow if we don't have difficulties and setbacks and heartaches. So one thing I want to say to you, right, is that we have to embrace those heartaches. We have to say yes to life. We have to be able to enter into our suffering. Somebody that you know and love died. That stinks. And that hurts. And life can hurt. But what Peck says is we have to enter into the suffering. We have to lean into it and eventually get on the other side of it. Do you know that the number one cause for mental illness in our lives is the avoidance of suffering? I don't want to suffer. I want to go around Jerusalem. I don't want to enter into that. I want to avoid it. I want to shove it aside. I don't want to look at it. I don't really want to look at some of the things that happen to me and maybe conclusions that I have about my life. I don't want to run the film of my life and look at it. I want to shove it in a drawer somewhere and not look at it. It's an amazing stat. 10% of human beings enter into a growth experience. 10%. 90% just want to live and la 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 and not really necessarily look at anything. Want to enter into it, enter into suffering, enter into the pain, enter into the broken heart, and say, I want to grow. You know, you wonder, it's always a good question. What are we doing here? What are we doing on the planet Earth? What is this all about? It's always the question that we always ask. I would say that definitely one part of that is we are here to grow. We are here to grow and develop. And the only way we grow and develop is we say yes to everything that has ever happened to us. To say yes to the suffering and yes to the difficulties and the pain. To be a problem solver. So one of the things that Peck talks about is what we need is we need to be disciplined. We have to have this self-discipline. I often think about kids like, now I'm 62. I don't remember when Pong came out. Remember Pong? And it was like, wow, this is incredible. Now, you got Fortnite, Grand Theft Auto. A couple of years ago, I'm walking by the TV and Rachel's in there and like chopping somebody's head off. I'm going, what the heck is going on here? Shooting and the kids when they're on vacation, some of these guys especially, they spend 7 days in a row with the headset on playing this game, and I guess they think they're interacting with others, like as if they're socializing. And they're playing these video games all the time. Now, can you imagine? I think about it like, can you imagine playing these video games so fast, shooting around, everything like that? Okay, Drew, you got to study your algebra now. You got a chemistry test. You know what I mean? Like that what happens is that, so Peck talks about delayed gratification, Skylar, you do your homework first and then you play. to be able to work and face things, or you got like 10 things to do. What are the most difficult? Do them first. Where very often what we'll do is we'll do the fun things first, and we'll save the difficult thing for the end. Somebody was talking about there's a word called procrastination or something like that. Have you ever heard of that word? We put off the things that we need to do. So he talks about to be self-disciplined, to have delayed gratification. And another aspect of this that is so important, and sometimes I wonder what's going on in America today. Heck says, you must take absolute responsibility for your life. You are responsible for your life. We create our life and take responsibility for that life. You know, we can think of like a lot of different groups of people in America that will feel like as if they've been victimized by things, and there's been difficulties, and I get all of that. But yet, like, I can think of people that I know that have had some of the same situations, and they're medical doctors, and they're dentists, and they're judges. They're on the Supreme Court. So in other words, what makes the truth, something to be true, it has to always be true. If it's not always true, then it isn't truth. So if it's true that people can overcome their difficulties and become doctors and lawyers and judges and love and overcome their heartaches and their pains, then you can't say that, poor me, I'm a victim, this happened to me, that happened to me, and that's reason why my life is the way it is, because that can't be true, because then you have these other people that didn't happen to. So that, in other words, we're all responsible for our lives. Taking responsibility, self-discipline, delayed gratification, entering into the problems. How do we do all that? What's the ingredient? What's the medicine that we need to take responsibility, to delay gratification, to face our difficulties? Interesting. He's a psychiatrist. The psychology of love, traditional values, and spiritual growth. That what enables us to take responsibility, to delay gratification, to face our problems, to lean into suffering, to say yes to life, is love. Interesting. Interesting that the very heart and core of our Christianity is also the heart and core of psychological human growth. Love. To be able to love myself, to do the things that I need to do, to love myself, to take responsibility for my life, to love myself so that I could be available for other people as well. Love. And love in a really healthy way. Love isn't some feeling good, because there's a lot of people who have this unbelievable feeling, I'm in love. And then they're kind of nasty to the person. Or I'm a Christian. I'm all about love. But love, like Kathleen read in that passage, the second reading, love takes action. Love is a verb. Love is something that we do. And ultimately, from that is who we are. So you know what? We're not coming here and escaping reality. We're plunging into the very depth of reality, to the very core of what it means to be human and to have meaning, is to face our problems and our difficulties and say yes to life and develop and grow in our ability to love. Actually, that's what really we're here for as a community, to help each other grow in our ability to love. You know, they were talking about like, we're not going to have this live stream, or getting to the point of like not having that anymore. And yet what we should do is to say, let's leave it up to the honor system. If you really can't make it here and you really have a problem with something, then you can live stream. But if you're sitting home and you just, I don't want to get in my car, I got my jammies on, I got a nice cup of coffee here. No, that is not taking responsibility for your commitment here at Good Shepherd. That if you can get here, we need to be here. You know why? Because when you're not here, we miss you, and we need you here for each other. So when Peter says to Jesus, I don't want to hear about this crucifixion. I don't want to hear about the suffering that you're going through. You cannot go. Jesus says, get behind me, Satan. Meaning, I'm sure Jesus as a human being was like, let this cup pass me by. There is a part of me that's not exactly thrilled with Jerusalem. But I'm going. I'm going because I'm supposed to go, I need to go, and that's what I'm here for. That's my purpose in life. And I'm going to enter into that, and I'm going to say yes to that. And I'm going to model for everybody that you enter into your life. Jesus. He models for us. We're not here to really admire him and worship him. We're here to emulate him. We're here to become like him. Receive that Eucharist. May I become what I receive. So you know what? I don't want to be and follow and look at and admire some rapper, some movie star, some fantastic, unbelievable athletic football player or baseball player. I want to be a human being. We want to be human beings that enters into the pain and struggle and difficulties of our life and says yes to it. What we really want to do is we want to be like him.